From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Militant greetings from the International League of People's Struggles and the Red Sparks Union here in Vancouver. Woo! Around the world, people are marching and rising for Palestine. Not only because we want to join in condemning the racist and fascist Israeli violence, but also because we want to side with the justice of the Palestinian struggle for liberation. The ILPS, the International League of People's Struggles, has been part of this international rising, participating in many cities around the world, and I'm proud to say that the ILPS has been leading activities in solidarity with Palestine in East Asia, in the Philippines, in China, and Indonesia. For more and more people around the world, the murderous Israeli attacks of the past few months have exposed Israel for what it is, a racist, fascist colonial state. How else can we describe a state that slaughters children, as we've seen over the last few weeks? Where the Speaker of the Parliament, not just a member, but the Speaker of the Parliament, calls for the murder of Palestinians and for them to be driven from Gaza so that, quote, it can become part of sovereign Israel and, quote, be populated by Jews. A state where armed encampments of settlers regularly attack and terrorize the indigenous Palestinian population in the most violent and racist ways, and where mobs of fascist youth attack peace rallies with the approval of the media and the police onlooking. What else would you call a state that would purposely bomb a UN facility sheltering civilians? Criminals!
Genocide!
It bears mentioning that this latest Israeli atrocity, the bombing of the UN school, strongly echoes the Tamil genocide of 2009, when the Sri Lankan military used coordinates provided by the UN to target emergency medical and relief centers in its murderous campaign against the Tamil people. There, as here, the Sri Lankan government used the tagging of the Tamil resistance as terrorists to justify unleashing its own reign of terror against the Tamil people, which was intended to force them out of their territories so that they could be occupied and settled. We can also look to the US drone strikes in Pakistan, the murderous campaign of the Indian state against the people of Kashmir, and the counterinsurgency of the Indian state against the Adivasi people, as other examples. In all of these instances, the so-called international community, which is really just the imperialist powers who are paying the piper and calling the tune, look on with approval. This is the new order of imperialism, which is much like the old, where the people, both their lives and their fundamental rights, are easily traded away for the military interests of the imperialist powers and for the economic interests of the wealthy ruling classes in these countries. And we should be clear that Canada is fully part of this imperialist camp.
Shame!
Shame! In a new round of ads, Prime Minister Harper brags that Canada and Israel are the best of friends because of our shared history and values. It's shameful, but it's absolutely true. Canada and Israel share a history of settler colonialism, of genocide, and the thefts of the lands of the indigenous people on which those states are built. And we can be sure that part of the calculus of the Harper regime and the Canadian ruling class in supporting Israel so strongly is that they want a free hand to deal with the indigenous people of Canada in the same way when they rise up and claim their rights and territories. In fact, Canada's so-called terrorist list and anti-terrorism legislation has been used against Native people resisting and claiming their lands in Canada and against mainly people engaging in national liberation struggles abroad. The Canadian list includes all of the organizations of the Palestinian resistance and the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah, basically amounting to an endorsement on the monopoly of violence for Israel in its routine war crimes against Palestinians and against all of the Arab countries around it.
Resistance, yes! Zionism, no! 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 Free Palestine!
So challenging the so-called terrorist list and the tagging of people's liberation struggles as terrorism, including when those labels are applied to Native groups in Canada, is an important way that we can break through Canadian imperialist and Zionist propaganda and support genuine struggles for liberation, including our brothers and sisters in Palestine.
Free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Before I finish, I want to say a few words about Palestine and the Palestinian resistance. Although it has been unbearable to watch this massacre, and although our hearts cry out for the Palestinians ruthlessly murdered by the occupier, and especially the children, it remains clear that Palestinians will liberate Palestine. While on one hand, the Israelis have done their best to turn Gaza into an open-air prison and now a killing zone, the Palestinian resistance is showing very clearly that Gaza is the first step to the liberation of Palestine. There will never again be Israeli settlements in Gaza. You better believe it. In this sense, despite the horrible and unnecessary loss of life, the resistance is truly winning a great victory for the Palestinian people in Gaza. And I think that the forces of liberation of Palestine are going to emerge from this crisis stronger than ever. The Palestinian liberation struggle has always been strongest when the masses, the Palestinian working class, Palestinian farmers and fisherfolk, Palestinian women in particular, are fully and actively participating in the struggle for the liberation of Palestine. That was the case in the 1936 uprising, in the First Intifada in 1982, and other high points of the Palestinian struggle. Oslo was a major setback in disorientation, but now the Palestinian masses are grasping and owning their liberation struggle again. In particular, the leadership of Palestinian women in the right of return movement, the solidarity movement of the Shatat, and the struggle to support and free the prisoners is a bright sign for the liberation of Palestine. Palestinians will liberate Palestine.
Yes!
And in this mission, Palestinians are joined in solidarity by millions of others around the world who are also engaged in struggling against imperialism and reactionary regimes and for liberation and a just and lasting peace. Victory to the Palestinian resistance!
Victory to the Palestinian resistance!
Free Ahmed Sadat and all Palestinian prisoners!
Free Ahmed Sadat and all Palestinian prisoners!
End the siege on Gaza now!
End the siege on Gaza now!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
End the occupation now!
End the occupation now!
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free!
Long live international solidarity!
Long live international solidarity!
Thank you.